I'm Alex Robinson, the marketing lead for the OpenJS Foundation, and today I'm talking with Ian Sutherland from Neo Financial. And Ian, why don't you introduce us?
Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Ian Sutherland, and I'm one of the engineering leads at Neo Financial, and I'm currently heading up our developer experience team.
Okay, and so can you tell us a little bit more about your experience as a software engineer and experience with Neo Financial?
Sure. Yeah, so I've been working as a software developer for I almost don't want to say 15, 20 years or something now. It's been a while. And I joined Neo about 3 years ago, right when the company started. So I've been there since the beginning and seen it grow from just a tiny handful of us into the quite large company that it is today.
Very cool. So do you want to explain to people who aren't familiar with Neo what exactly your product is and kind of what's different about it?
Sure, yeah. So Neo is a Canadian fintech startup, and specifically we offer consumer banking products. So our first product was a rewards credit card, and we've got about 20,000 or so partners across Canada um, that where you can use our card and get rewards. And then we introduced a high interest savings account, and actually we just recently launched a investment product as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And, I'll just go ahead and say it. We were talking before this, and I I'm in California, and I almost wish I was Canadian so that I could use your product. It's definitely appealing to whatever it is about my certain demographics.
Definitely not by accident. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I didn't mention before too. It's a an app first banking experience. We
Mhm.
don't need branches or anything like that. Like it's all the whole interaction is either through our mobile apps or our web application.
Yeah, and the website homepage looks like it's like you're expecting like a pretty seamless experience as a user.
That's the goal.
Yeah, so Ian, can you tell us a little bit about like how and why Neo Financial is using Node in its development? This is part of how we got in touch, was that it came to our attention that you work with one of our projects, which is Node.js.
Yeah, that's right. We actually decided, like right from the very beginning, that we were gonna use JavaScript, specifically TypeScript, for everything we possibly could. So front end, back end, whatever we could use it. And so obviously, Node is the technology of choice for running JavaScript on the server. And so yeah, from day one, that was a decision we made. And part of the reason we did that, there were a number of factors. One, obviously, JavaScript is the most popular programming language, and we knew we were going to be scaling our team of developers very quickly. So, anything we could do to make that easier seemed like a sort of an obvious choice. So that was a big reason. And then, yeah, Node, has worked really, really well for us. Some of the things that we particularly like about it, it's really easy to containerize apps using Node. So we have like a microservice architecture. And so, yeah, each of those services is a Node container. And then the other benefit we've seen from it is just in terms of like performance and scalability. We've been really, really impressed with the amount of performance we can get from a single node instance. And so it's definitely helped keep our infrastructure costs low, and made scaling very easy.
That's great. That's great feedback. We love to hear all of those things, keeping costs low, and it's efficient for performance and scalability. Just curious, how many people are on your engineering team now?
I don't have the exact number. It's definitely over 100 at this point.
Oh, so it's
Um,
pretty
100,
large.
yeah, 100 developers, and if you include like product and things like that, we're like well over 150.
Mhm.
And that's like the company's only existed for a little under 3 years. And
Great.
we've yeah, and
So it's
we're
like growth, like tremendous growth right there. Um,
absolutely, and we're still hiring. So
So do you always hire developers with a background in Node? Like, is that like a must-have skill? And do you guys work with any of our other projects? Like, there's a lot of people work with Webpack and Fastify and different things like that.
We do actually use Fastify and Webpack
Oh,
indirectly through some other frameworks. So yeah, we do work with a couple other technologies.
do you require people you hire to your engineering team to have experience with Node?
No, that's not a strict requirement. I mean, honestly, don't even require people to know JavaScript.
Mhm.
Um, I mentioned we write all of our code in TypeScript, and so if you've worked in other languages like C Sharp or even Java,
Mhm.
TypeScript is has a lot of similarities to those kinds of languages. So yeah, it's not a hard requirement that people are familiar with Node or even JavaScript. I mean, obviously it helps, but yeah, we've definitely hired people that don't have that familiarity.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean that's good. Like it's not like a hard must have skill, but it's Node is used widely by your engineering team.
Right.
So you talked about like, it's great to run things in Node on the server. But what about working in serverless applications?
Yeah, I mean that's another thing that we do a lot of, and again another area where Node performs quite well. It's really easy to build serverless function written in JavaScript running on Node. There's no like compilation step required, and we see pretty good cold start performance in those applications. So yeah, that's another area where Node has worked great for us.
Cool. And did you ever try anything else? I think you said you've kind of been working with Node from the start with Neo Financial. So it was
Yeah,
just kind of like a given that you'd be using it for that.
yeah, we did like I said, make a conscious decision, at the very beginning that we were going to write as much code as we possibly could in JavaScript, just to keep that uh, similar across the stack, front end, back end. It makes it a lot easier. I mean, it's easier for hiring. But
Mhm.
it's also easier for having developers work on different parts of the product and shuffling people around on teams and things like that. If we're all working with the same language, that really makes it easy for anyone to kind of jump into any part of the code.
Right. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the developer experience, access to
Yes.
NPM ecosystem?
Yeah, so we also use Node and JavaScript, for local development,
Mhm.
and that's worked really well for us. It's very very fast local development experience. You can change some code and have the project reload, almost instantly. So it's a really nice experience for our developers. And then also just having access to the npm ecosystem. There's millions of packages or whatever out there, and so that definitely lets us work very productively. Like you mentioned, Fastify earlier as an example, great project. We use that in all of our services, and just having access to such a rich ecosystem of packages and plugins really makes our dev work a lot easier and faster.
Just makes it easier to solve whatever the needs are.
Exactly. Chances are someone solved something similar already.
Right. Yeah. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. And, this is something that we kind of say over and over again in our foundation, but that's one of the biggest benefits to open source in terms of getting things done faster and making sure that they're more secure because they're constantly being updated or maintained. And I would assume since you guys are a fintech product, security is pretty important. You don't have to go into too much detail on this, but you feel satisfied with the node for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Security is definitely top of mind for us in everything that we do as a financial company.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, we're the I know the Node.js project has a number of people focused on the security of Node itself. And yeah, we feel very comfortable running that in production.
Cool. So what about how you are working on Node as an individual and contributing to the open source ecosystem?
Yeah, I've been involved in open source for a number of years now. Um, I made some smaller contributions initially, and then I got involved in the React community. I'm
Mhm.
actually the maintainer of Create React app right now. Been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years, and then about 4 years ago, I think I got involved in Node.js itself. Um, I primarily work as part of a working group called the Tooling Group, and our focus is around making Node an awesome tool for building things like CLI tools, or other tools that you might run in like a CI or build kind of environment, or lambdas or anything like that.
Like, how did you get started doing that?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I mean, it was just something that I was using, and then I saw a few little areas that I thought were room for improvement, and so I started making some small contributions, and then kind of just got a little bit more involved in the project. Worked on a couple larger contributions, and then at that point, I was invited to be one of the maintainers, and then yeah, I've kind of just been doing that for the last few years.
We've touched on a couple of things, how Node is secure, it's fast, it's good for performance and scalability. The NPM ecosystem is vast. JavaScript is a hugely popular language. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I mean, I think we covered, most of the main like advantages that we see from using Node.js and JavaScript. I guess I'd just like to say, thank you to everyone in the ecosystem for all the work that they put in.
Yeah.
I try to do my part as well, as small as it might be, and myself and everyone in the community and tons of companies and startups out there have all benefited tremendously from it. And so, yeah, I mean, we owe a lot of uh, thanks to all those people.
Yeah, we have an awesome community. People are, you know, doing development on open source projects for free as volunteers when they contribute lines of code and fixes and documentation. So we, wouldn't be anywhere without our contributors and our community. So I agree, it's great, and yeah, like great to hear you say that.
Yeah, and we try to do our part to, like I do myself, the work that I do on Node.js and at Neo, we try to, we've open sourced, a number of things, primarily like tools, things like GitHub Actions, some developer tools and things like that. So yeah, we definitely try to give back wherever we possibly can. I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's great to hear you say that. Thanks, Ian, so much for this conversation. It was really cool learning from you about all of the ways that you guys are using Node and also just participating as citizens of the open source community. So yeah, thanks again for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.